You want us to get started, Bob, or wait a couple minutes?
Yeah, why don't we give it a couple minutes and allow people to log on after school?
What's up, Bob? Hi, Nancy.
Hello, how are you?
Michael,
Good. Hey, Mary. What's happening, Mary?
Hi there.
Oh,
How are you?
I'm good. How you feeling?
Good, thank you.
Good, good. How are people doing? I'm the talker, clearly. People wanna, I'm a talk. That's what I'm gonna
be
do.
careful. We're recording. Be careful.
I'm just talking, no drama. No, oh yeah, I know. Remember Monday?
Oh God, that
So
was
we definitely had a Monday, a good Monday night session, right, Bob?
it was therapy, man.
Literally, literally. It was fun. Everybody's been going through a lot. I feel like there's not a space for everybody to talk about all the things that they're going through. So just one day happened to be, oh, Dr. Dahir is here. What? She can't hear me. She just, yeah, Carol Dahir. She is one of the, if you don't know Carol Dahir, guys, you probably should. She is one of the many school counselors that, like, the front runners. Like, this is the woman that has done so much for counselors throughout the entire country. So we gotta give her flowers while she's here. Dr. Dahir, I don't know if you hear me. You probably have no idea who I am, but yes, we appreciate you and we love you. So.
No charge for that. I think this might be a good time to get started.
Okay. So welcome to Virtual Comp Camp 2025. I first want to start off by wishing everyone a happy School Counselor Week and thank you for all of the work that you do to serve the students of New York. Your jobs are not easy, but they are filled with lots of rewards. So we hope that today's session will help you in completing some of the requirements that we have. So this Comp Camp is session 2 of our virtual Comp Camp. This is a follow-up to our summer workshops that we did across the state. And today our focus will be on the Advisory Council. Trainers today are myself, I'm Nancy DeStefano, and Mary Benazik. I am the assistant superintendent, I'm a retired assistant superintendent from the Washington, Saratoga, Warren, Hamilton, Essex, BOCES. I am also a former director of counseling and a New York State school counselor, and I am doing professional development for NYSCA. I'm going to turn over to Mary to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Banaszak. I'm excited to be president-elect for NYSCA this year. I am a retired school counselor after 35 years in Victor Central Schools near Rochester as a school counselor, and I was a special education teacher for 8 years prior to that. I was coordinator of counseling at Victor, and I'm looking forward to working with you today, helping you through this process.
Thank you, Mary. Before we go any further, I just want to remind everyone that if you would like a certificate of attendance, please put your name in the chat and we will get that sent out to you for attending today's workshop. So as we said, we're going to focus on the Advisory Council. Based on the revisions to the Part 100.2J regulations, all districts are required to establish an advisory council. If your district has not done that yet, don't feel afraid. You're not alone. That's why we're having these workshops to help people develop their advisory councils. So today we're going to focus on what the requirements are for the advisory council, what the advisory council committee should look like, what the role of the advisory council is, and what required reports need to be submitted by the advisory council. So when we look at the Part 100.2J regulations regarding advisory councils, there are really 4 specific areas that the regulations address on advisory councils. The first of these is on establishing an advisory council. The second is some specifics to the schools in New York City and the City School District of New York. the number of required meetings that you need to do, and also what reports need to be submitted. So we're going to dig into those a little bit in the next few slides. First, let's talk about the requirements. So when it comes to establishing an advisory council, we're going to take the regulation, the wording from the regulation, and relate it back to you as far as what it means, talk about some related information and some implementation ideas to help you in developing the advisory council. So each school district needs to establish a comprehensive developmental school counseling guidance program advisory council. This should be representative of the stakeholder groups that are within the district. The membership for the advisory council is a district decision. It is not regulated by regulation, but it is recommended in regulation that you include district leaders, parents, board members, Board of Education members, community-based service providers, teachers, certified school counselors need to be on it. Not all counselors in the district have to be on it, but you should have representation of your certified school counselors. Other pupil personnel service providers in the district, including social workers or school psychologists. We would also suggest that you may want to consider having student representation on the advisory council as well. When we look at the role of the advisory council, it really is to provide stakeholders with the opportunity to review, advise, and support on the implementation of the comprehensive program. Membership of the advisory council, like we said before, is determined by the district. When it comes to some implementation ideas, districts need to determine what stakeholders are needed for the advisory council and who is going to be the best representation. There's a couple ways in which you can look at this with regard to roles or people. Only one advisory council is required by district. However, larger districts may choose to have multiple advisory councils at the building level. This could be done in a number of different ways. It could be done at the elementary level where you have multiple elementary schools with one elementary advisory council, or you could have building level advisory councils. But again, this is a district decision. Specific to New York City, if you are in the city school district of the city of New York, you are required to establish a comprehensive school advisory council for each community school. The city of New York is set up a little bit differently than the rest of the state in that they have community school district structures. So each of those is required to have an advisory council. Excuse me, just 1 minute. My apologies. The next piece of the legislation covers the number of meetings that you are required to have. So the advisory council is required to meet no less than twice a year. And the purpose of those meetings is to review the comprehensive developmental school counseling guidance plan and advise on the implementation of the program. With the meeting of at least twice a year, you may need to have additional meetings at the implementation of the advisory council. You'll also need to talk about the role, and having a group of people on the committee understand this may take more than 2 meetings in the initial year or two that you establish it. So the role is to review the implementation of the program, and this provides an important link in the annual program development and the review and the revision process of your comprehensive plan. When you are planning the calendar for the advisory council meetings, it's important to consider the time between meetings as well. So as suggested under the implementation ideas for the 2 meetings a year, you may want to have one meeting held at the end of the year to review the annual program data and make suggested revisions for the coming school year. And then the next meeting may be at the beginning of the school year to talk about new initiatives and services. This again is a district decision. You may feel that you need to have more than 2 meetings initially. You may feel that more meetings are best throughout the whole process too. You'll want to make sure that when you're planning your meetings and you have the intervals between them, that there is enough time for you to establish your goals and to have them implemented and to be able to collect data so that you actually can report on the progress that you're making towards those goals. If there's not enough time in between meetings, you're not going to have enough data and information to report on. And again, it's up to the district to establish the dates and the calendar for their meetings. With regard to required reports, the advisory council role is to create and submit an annual report to the Board of Education, or in the case of New York City, they would submit it to the Chancellor of the City School District of the City of New York, or to the Board of Education. As with all meetings, it's important that you establish an agenda and you take meeting minutes. These minutes can form the annual report to the Board of Education and can help solidify the work that you are doing. It's also important to know that there is a report that should complement the program outcomes report, and this should be used to help inform the decisions on the plan. We're going to talk a little bit more about what that report may look like in a few more slides. But the reports include the minutes, the agenda, and the outcomes report. So we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. This graphic really summarizes the requirements for the advisory council as they're highlighted in the school district perspective. You should have received in your invite email a copy of the school district perspective, as well as a copy of the guidance from New York State on developing your comprehensive plan. So under the regulations, you are required to establish a district advisory council. That council is required to meet a minimum of 2 times annually for the purposes of reviewing, advising, and supporting the implementation of the district comprehensive program. You need to submit an annual report and minutes to the Board of Education, and the recommended membership for each committee could include stakeholders from parent groups, members of the Board of Education, school and district leaders, community-based service providers, teachers, certified school counselors, other student-centered personnel, and also the consideration for students. So this slide summarizes what is in the regulations as kind of a graphic for you to refer to. And again, if you are in this city school district of the City of New York, you need to submit a report to the Chancellor and then as well to the Board of Education. Mira, you're muted.
Sorry. I'm going to talk a little bit about why advisory councils are so important. They really play an important part in the development and maintenance of your comprehensive school counseling guidance program, because it includes information and input from other stakeholders. So as you develop the advisory council, be prepared for some barriers and some obstacles that will need to be overcome, because people will have different levels of understanding, and you'll need to share information and guide them through the process. As you develop the advisory council, realize that you will have people who are interested in providing genuine advice and feedback, and that can be very effective and have a positive impact on your counseling program. You want to be sure to have a diverse representation of people who are willing to take their time from their busy schedules, who have a variety of roles that they play in the community. Different executive levels of experience and diverse personalities are helpful in the process to make sure that you're garnering different perspectives and using that input to formulate your plan for the year. You want to make sure that your meetings are worthwhile and well-planned. So please plan an agenda that is relevant, encourage active participation. You may want to put in timeframes for each discussion point to guide your process. And you want to make sure that you are taking minutes of each meeting, so that the minutes will be available to all members of the committee and later to be sent to the Board of Education when they are required. Whether you are the leader of the advisory council or a member, it's important that you show that this is a valuable process and that you are sincerely welcoming input from around the table. By listening and acting on recommendations or responding to questions or concerns or recommendations, it will make your program stronger and better for the students you serve. It will also highlight your role as a school counselor within the school community, which is always an important thing to do. So to get started, if you don't have an advisory council already, You may look to see if there is a multidisciplinary team already in place in your district that has the required membership. For example, you may have a curriculum committee or another committee that is district-wide with administrators, building or district administrators, Board of Ed members, parent members, student members, teachers, counselors, psychologists, social workers, school nurses, a variety of folks who have different perspectives. Then you'll determine who will facilitate your meetings. Now, oftentimes the facilitator is an administrator, not necessarily the counselor. So there are a couple of ways you can do this. You can identify the roles you want members to have or look at specific people that you want to invite to participate. The advisory council, as Nancy said, is required to meet a minimum of 2 times per year. And it may be necessary to meet more often as the group becomes established and understands the roles they play. You want to be sure, again, that it's a meaningful time spent and that there is a relevant agenda of topics to be covered, data to be shared, and minutes are kept. Okay. This is a sample invite letter. So some folks are creating the advisory council for the first time. And you may want to send a letter out to the people that you would like to participate on the advisory council. This is a sample letter. You'll notice that it includes the regulation to help people understand why they're being invited and what the purpose of the committee is. You also want them to understand what their responsibility as a member will be. You want to give the date, time, and location of the meeting and an opportunity for them to respond. You could use this as a guide. It's just a sample. ASCA has developed a number of templates for the agenda and minutes of the advisory council meetings. You do not have to use their templates, but they can serve as a guide in developing the agenda and minutes for your district if you're starting one from scratch. Other times, districts may have a standard agenda template and minutes template that are being used for every multidisciplinary team in the district. So check yours out and see what you have available to you. You'll also see on this slide some links to agendas, minutes, and you can see what that might look like. Those are some other samples for you. When it comes to written documentation of the advisory council, districts are required, as Nancy said, to develop meeting agendas, take meeting minutes, and provide an annual outcomes report. This report includes an analysis of the Comprehensive Developmental School Counseling Guidance Program. The report should focus on the district goals that were addressed by the Comprehensive Counseling Guidance Plan. The report should also include the related program goals and objectives that you've established for your counseling department, the program activities and the services that were provided to support the achievement of those goals. There should be some programmatic data that supports the progress that was made toward achieving each goal. Now, you could use ticket out the doors or surveys that perhaps you use to drive your goals for your comprehensive plan. During our last session, we touched upon the 3 different types of data outlined in the school district perspective: process data, perception data, and outcome data. We will spend more time next session on data completely. The annual outcomes report needs to include an analysis of the data collected and recommendations for the advisory council. Now, I will tell you that when you consider providing data about your plan or your lessons, whether it's to the advisory council or to the Board of Ed, graphics are always helpful. Some people like words, some people like to see charts and graphs. So you want it to be user-friendly when you're looking at this data.
So
Nancy?
ASCA developed a outcomes report guide for your reference, and that's on a link on the previous slide. But we also wanted to show you some templates that you could be using. The first on here is one that was developed by Dr. Tahir for NISCA, and it is the program delivery map. Also included on here is the ASCA model, Appendix D, which is their sample program delivery map, as well as a narrative that is referred to in the outcomes report guide from California. So it all depends on what your district prefers and what is the best use for you to provide this information to your Board of Education. If we take a closer look at the NISCA model, it covers everything that is in the program delivery map of ASCA, but it gives you more detail and more opportunities to put more information in there. So it includes the program, activity, or the service. It also includes the areas under student standards. Are they learning strategies? Are they self-management? Or are they social skills? Then it gives you a column to include other learning standards that you may have addressed, such as health standards, social emotional learning standards, or CDOS standards. Then it gives you a column for grade level. It also lets you identify whether it is an academic area, if it is college and career readiness preparation, or if it is social emotional learning. It also gives you a place to identify what tier it is. Is it tier 1, 2, or 3? So if it's tier 1, you're doing it for all students. If it's tier 2, you're doing it for some students. And if it's tier 3, you're doing it for a select group of students that need more intensive interventions. It also gives you a space to include the timeline of delivery. It includes a space for you to identify who is delivering that service. Are you doing it as a school counselor by yourself? Are you doing it in collaboration with teachers or other people service providers? Or do you have community agencies coming in to help support the work that you're doing? And then it gives you a place to identify data and what data you're using. And this includes the process, outcomes, and perception data as well. So any of these are good formats to use. It depends on what you're the most comfortable with. If it were me and I were doing an outcome report for boards of education that I have reported to in the past, I would probably use one of the template models, and then I would transfer that into a narrative to better explain it. You can use the delivery map templates as your report. However, not everyone's going to understand what the information is that you're putting in that report and understand the data through that report. So if it were me and I were in my former school district, I would have to do a presentation to the Board of Education too. And I know that that kind of makes people nervous. So what might that presentation look like? So we kind of put together a few slides just to kind of give you an idea of what it might look like. You're going to want to include a slide that has the goals that you have identified that you are working towards for the school year. Possible goals that you might be addressing would include test-taking strategies, sense of belonging, maybe study skills, attendance, leadership development. There's a number of different goals that you might be addressing that you would include in this. So this is just an example. As Mary said, including charts and graphs to identify the data and illustrate that data helps people better understand it. Looking at it in words on paper doesn't necessarily give people a good picture of what that data is telling them. So transferring that information into charts and graphs helps illustrate what the data means and helps give people a better picture of what the outcomes and the results have been through the work that you have done. And then you want to provide a summary of some type. You want to summarize how the results were achieved for each of the goals that you established that you were working towards. And then you want to explain what the recommendations are for moving forward. So this is just a basic idea of what you might do if you had to present to the Board of Education. And you may not be the one doing the presenting. It may be whoever the facilitator is. But this will give you an idea of kind of what you're putting together and when you're pulling together your final outcomes report. All right, at this point, we're going to open it up to questions.
So the annual program outcomes can be in our advisory council presentation, but we're expected to send that piece and our minutes to the Board of Education or present to the Board of Education.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, minutes should be given to the Board of Education and then the final outcomes report as well.
And that's separate from having a board member be on the committee, right?
Yes, yes. The board member on the committee is one of the stakeholder representative groups. So they are separate from that. You give it to the whole board. Or in the case
Okay.
of your city, you're gonna give it to the chancellor and the Board of Education there.
Okay, and this presentation was very helpful. Will you be sharing it?
Yes. So all of the
Okay.
information will be put into a folder that will be shared out with everyone who registered,
Okay,
as well as
wonderful.
all of the resources. We'll go over resources in just a minute too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Other questions?
I saw that there are a number of folks from Orchard Park Schools. I wonder if your team has any questions or where you're at in the process.
Hi, my name is Heather. I'm from Windsor Central School District. We just started our advisory council this past year, and we started it small. And so I guess, how long should we keep it? I'm almost wondering if I have too many like school people in it too. Like how long should I have it be small before I really like bring in everybody, or should we be doing that now?
So I don't know what small means, but I would say as long as you have representation from the stakeholders that are important key players within the district, the size of it doesn't really matter. There's nothing in regulation that says you have to have so many members on the committee. You just have to have representation of stakeholders that are within the district. So as long as you cover those areas, it doesn't have to be, you know, a large group. It can be, you know, 5 or 10 people. It can be a fairly small group. But as long as there's representation from all those stakeholder groups. Does that make sense, Heather?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Good question, though.
Hi, this is Jen Stahl. I'm one of the counselors from Orchard Park. I just was curious if people have suggestions on when during the day works best to hold the advisory council meetings. We struggle being a larger district, kind of finding what is going to work best. And I just didn't know if other districts in a similar position have suggestions.
Anyone have suggestions for?
I can jump in if that's okay. My name is Melissa Reeder from the Hyde Park Central School District. That has been really, we have had several iterations of a guidance advisory council over time. And recently this year, after going to the summer NISCA Com Camp, you know, we wanted to really try to do the advisory council with, you know, while including different stakeholders, and it became point of contention in our district, not to air dirty laundry, but it did rise to the level of union involvement because because of the decision to try to move toward an evening event to include parents and students in the council. So we were able to pull it off and it went well, but it didn't come without sort of a fight. And also thinking about wanting to make sure that we did have counselors and educators who were willing to participate despite you know, standing with their union. So I just wanted to put that out there that the time of the day has been a bit contentious, and it would be nice to hear if what other districts might have done if they were in a similar situation. I know it's all new.
So I, on behalf of Millbrook Central School District, which is close to Hyde Park, we do it at 10 o'clock. Like this is going to be our third year doing this, and we've done the fall and we've done the spring, and we keep it at the same time, which is 10 a.m., 10 to 11. And we have about 16 people on the council that involves all the appropriate stakeholders. And what we've done is we just try to make sure that it's scheduled very far in advance, where there's enough bodies in the appropriate buildings to support the needs of students in that 1 hour that anybody is not available. And then of course, just making sure like the secretaries, the counselors and administrators who are in the 1 hour session are notified if there's any emergencies and they need to leave the meeting. And then we have at least a superintendent who doesn't come because she manages while we're out. She makes sure she keeps up with what's going on in the buildings while we're not available. I also present this presentation and our counseling plan to her, as well as it's also posted on our websites and such. And then what we've done in the past, in our first year, is it was virtual, so everybody was able to do it from their offices. So if that becomes an issue as well, that can also be an option if your school district permits.
Thank you, Samantha. Elena, you have your hand up.
Hi, yes, I'm Elena Vandersamen. I'm in the Norwich School District. And we were up and running until this year. I actually was kind of the one to put a hold on it because we don't currently have an elementary school counselor. Our position was cut so that the counseling position is shared between our two elementary buildings now. And they filled it with what they're calling an on-track coordinator. So I felt like this person who's kind of filling in right now is not a certified school counselor. I think they have some mental health background. I'm not sure in what. And we also have someone who is a career coach serving with our seniors. So I just wasn't sure where or how we address that with an advisory council, and your thoughts.
So the regulations don't require every school to have every level to have a school counselor. Like you don't have to have an elementary school counselor. Is it the best scenario and the best for kids? Absolutely. But the regulations require that you have representation of school counselors. So every school counselor in the district does not have to be on the advisory council either. So you could still move forward with the advisory council if that's what the district chose to do. And that person could be representative as a pupil services personnel too. I don't know, Mary, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, we just needed representation, so we would take turns, the school counselors around the district, in attending the advisory council meetings. If we had representation from all, we would do it. Our meetings were held after school during the district-wide meeting time, so that we were able to have students and teachers from all the buildings attend. It was like 3:30 until 4:15. And it was already on the calendar, predetermined at the start of the school year that we would be on the agenda for the December meeting and the June meeting. So all stakeholders knew what was happening and when we would be presenting, and it worked out fine. So if you don't have everyone, you don't have to. I would still recommend you continue to go on with the advisory council, even if you don't have the elementary counselor, which would be really beneficial, but not.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, the regs state that they should still have access to a school counselor, and a school counselor should be overseeing the elementary program.
Right.
Yeah, so and this probably is a whole different meeting that could be handled on that topic, but I am curious how that's supposed to be met and addressed, and if the advisory council has a role in that in any way, but that's probably a different topic.
So our
I
school
have an opinion. I think that that's a great topic for the advisory council.
Mm.
Yep. In my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, how do these children have access to a certified school counselor if there isn't one?
Right. I know in some districts, the counselors from the higher grade levels are expected to meet with whoever is on staff at the elementary school to share the comprehensive plan, to look at how those goals might be addressed at the elementary buildings, and partner with them to help make sure that's occurring, whether it's the administration or teachers or the PPS staff that are down there. It gets confusing, it gets a little dicey because you're busy in your own buildings, but that's the thought process, I think, when they consider access to school counseling program and to the counseling program that was developed.
And
Mary,
it is
can I
an
give some
integral part of
insight?
the plan.
I wanted to also share, so for my school district in Millbrook, We didn't always have, of course, our students always had access to a school counselor. This year is our first year where we're actually splitting up our secondary counselors per one grade level for building 3 through 5, and they only go down twice a month to provide lessons to our students. But that wasn't always the case. So we did collaborate with our PPS staff. So I supervise the school counselors, and then our supervisor PPS supervises the psychologist. And they also provide some of the supports that the counselor would do, which is group counseling, individual counseling, crisis intervention, improving student attendance, CSE annual review, 504 meetings, referrals to outside agencies. All of these are part of our system support and our response services for our counseling plan. And we worked with the PPS staff at the time to discuss how are they providing the social emotional learning lessons to our students, the changes that have come about, and the benefits of our counselors going down twice a month for our 3rd through 5th grade students is to also provide the academics and the college and career lessons. So it's a work in progress, and a lot of the expectations fall on our counselors and the changes, but it's supportive and they're doing a great job. I want to commend my counselors here in Millbrook for all the work that they're doing. But there's definitely a way for, as Mary had suggested, the counselors to work with other members of the instructional staff or PPS staff to support our students' needs pertaining to the counseling plan.
Christina, you have your hand up.
Yes, so I'm Christina Bauer. I work in Forestville Elementary, and my question is just for timing purposes, our contract time is from 7:35 to 3:05. Our students arrive at 7:40 and our kids leave they're gone by 2:45. So we have a very short window in our contract time to even get meetings done, like our faculty meetings, thankfully can't go more than 20 minutes because that's what's in our contract time. So I just see such a struggle in trying to set these times when I know, and even myself, I get it, like working out a contract time is difficult, but I know probably everyone on this call does it all the time. But convincing others to want to be part of this and know that they're not going to be paid that time is going to be very, very difficult. And we know that meetings can't be 20 minutes long, like it's just not feasible. So I'm just curious what other districts do. Do they get like budgeting for this, just a way to like kind of take that negative part of it, is that we don't have that time in our contract to have meetings outside of like the academic time.
Christina, I'd like to respond to that. I'm wondering if your teachers union, if you look at your contract, is there a stipend for people to participate on district level committees?
I don't
we
know.
used
I'd
to-
have to look.
We used to have a stipend for I was on the curriculum committee for a long time. And those meetings were after the contract day hours for the high school, because as you said, my day ended at 2:50.
Yeah.
But the meeting started at 3:30. So teachers and counselors and those under the contract received a stipend if they signed up to represent their
To be in the council, yeah.
counselors during that time. So
Okay.
check your union, and NYSET has been very helpful in advocating with our school counselors. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Just a quick, do you mind? Can everybody hear me? Hi. Christina, a thought popped up in my head because you said that there's only like 20 minutes at the end of every day, right? For there to be planning.
Yes.
So one thing that we did in my school, or the previous school that I was in, was we took those 20 minutes for each of those days and we switched it and put it toward the end of a day. So that instead of it being like 20 minutes after every day, we used that hour and put it on like a Thursday, or we put it on a Monday. But we did have to survey everyone to ask if they would have wanted that. So
Are
it's
you
just
saying
something.
like you left, I just want to make sure I'm understanding, like you're saying you left early other days to then use it then?
So
what you're saying?
essentially, yeah, so if it
Okay.
was 20, so for instance, if it, usually everybody gets out at 3:10, the kids get out at 2:45.
Mhm.
What we did was we surveyed all the teachers to see if we can get like a weekly, meeting going so that we can check in at least weekly,
Okay.
for an hour, and then everybody else, they went home right after the kids every other day, so.
Gotcha. Okay, that's a great idea. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's hard with such a small window, and there's obviously tons of different committees happening and always rearranging schedules to make that happen. But I think if it was in the calendar and planned ahead of time, it would
Mhm.
definitely be feasible. So
Yeah,
thank you. I appreciate that.
something to ask your admin and, whoever, like whatever teachers would be willing.
Mhm.
Yeah, so.
Okay, cool.
I got a question, as a DM says, wondering if it's up to the school counselors to set up the advisory council, or is it up to the administration to create and set these up?
I would say it's a team effort. If your administration is not setting it up, then as counselors, you will need to advocate with your administrator that this is something that's required. You can share some of Nancy's slides with them about the requirements and have that conversation.
Yeah, I'm
it's
thinking back to
definitely a team
my
effort.
old district. My administrators wouldn't have known to do it if we hadn't gone to them to tell them to.
Right. And we don't know what the superintendents have remember from 2019 or what new information has been shared with them as of yet. So a lot's happened since the regulations came out. So it is a team effort to try and make this happen. Any other questions? They've all been great. And thank you so much for everyone who's jumped in and shared your experiences and what's worked and hasn't worked for you. It's been very helpful for those on the call. If there's no other questions, we'll move forward with a couple more slides. So these are our resources that we use in developing this presentation. These are active links that you have to access each one of them. It includes the SED guidance, the school district perspective that we have referred to and will continue to refer to in the next few trainings that we have. It includes the agenda and minutes templates, the New York State draft programs and outcomes map, as well as the ASCA programs delivery map. We wish you the best of luck with the advisory council. You will also be getting a link following this session to the Google folder that has all of these documents in it, as well as a recording of this session. And I believe when you access that folder, you will also be able to access the materials from the January folder and future trainings as well once we populate those. Mary, you're muted.
Sorry, our next meetings will be focused on data. This was one of the greatest stumbling blocks that we heard about at our summer PDs. So we'll delve into data tools, how to review the data and use it for reports and program planning on March 12th. And then on April 5th, we will talk about annual progress reviews. And if there is a topic from the group that is resounding that a number of people want to think more about, we can address it at that time as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending our session. We hope to see you in March. Here's the emails for Mary and myself if you want to reach out and ask us questions. Some of you have messaged me in the chat for some additional resources, and I will be sending those out following the meeting as well.
Thank you all for taking time to
Thank you.
attend. And happy School Counselor Week.
Yeah. Let's play the song.
Let's play the song.
Let's play the
I'll stop
song.
sharing.
The song.
And our the producer of the song is actually on the call. Joseph Ania.
And if you joined us late and you need a certificate of attendance, please pop your email in the chat section if you haven't already done so.
Yeah, here we go.
You walk in with a smile every day, turning mountains into sand and clay, finding light in each and every shade. Counselors, we're so glad you stayed. When life's a maze, you draw a map. With every student, there's a different path. You lift us up on the rainiest day. Counselors, you guide the way. Thank you for the hearts you tend, for being more than just a friend. In every challenge we survive, with you we truly thrive. You listen when the world's so loud. Help us stand when doubts surround. Every fear you softly chase. Counselors in every case. We look up to you as stars to climb. In your presence we feel time. You make each hurdle a little less tall. Counselors, you catch us when we fall. Moments big and moments small. You're there to help us through them all, showing us the strength inside. Counselors, you're our guiding light.
Thank you, Joseph.
That was awesome, Joseph. Thank you.
I'm going to put the link in the chat.
Perfect.
Happy National School Counselors Week.
He's going to show us all how to write songs now.
Thank you so much, Joseph.
You're very welcome. You all work so hard, you know. It's a very fulfilling profession, you know. And I was just talking to my director, telling her how, you know, we should always look to grow in our profession, you know, and there's so many things we can do, and we can always learn and share and just be in community with each other. So I appreciate you for these PDs as well. Thank you.
Joseph, how long have you been in Freeport?
It's only my second year of Freeport, but I've been in counseling, I think it's my 8th year now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I have another good one.
Bye, Marie.
Hi, Mary. How
Thank you,
are you?
everyone. Have a great evening.
Have a good evening.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.